Hi, Jeremy with CMC. So our big laser's down right. That big old guy over there, that's our 150 watt, 40 by 63. Looks like we're gonna have to put a tube in it. You know, they've only got a couple years. Everybody's gonna get on there and talk about the differences about, oh, how much did you run it? Whatever. So what I figured I'd do is in the meantime, while we got some time, I do have our original powerhouse right here. This is our Muse. We've had this for 5 years. This is the very first laser that we got. I've upgraded it to a little bit better chiller. I still have the rotary and all the old parts back there. Got some air valves back there. It's a mess. Never quite a housing in order to hold them. But what I figured I wanted to do is I've never tried to run any of our mini flags. Right there are one of our most popular items when we go to the vendor events, which we don't do anymore. And I'll eventually do a video and talk about why we don't do vendor events, but these are our most popular items, and we currently make those out of pine. It's just clear pine. But ever since we got the Marine Corps licensing, one of the requirements of Marine Corps licensing, that all of your blanks have to be made in the US. Now, I'm not saying the pine didn't come from the US, but I can't be 100% certain. I was in Menards the other day. I saw that they offer these aspen boards, 1x8, which actually comes out to 3/4 of an inch thick. And right there at the bottom, made in the USA. So now these blanks would actually be approved to make the Marine Corps goods. And if you're making anything Marine Corps related and you don't have licensing, ooh, good luck to you. They are pretty big sticklers on it. So you can actually go right to CDC's website and they'll show you how to get your licensing, or CLC, collegiate, whoever it is. I can put the link down below in the comments if you'd like, if you're interested. But what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can figure out how to get these blanks made with this laser. I want to see if I can figure out how to run them. I've never actually run any mini flags on this one. One of them's always been done on this guy. So now that this is down, it's a good opportunity to use the smaller laser and to also show you how to do it. So let's head over to the bench and we'll get ready to start prepping our blank. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is we're going to check out what the actual measurements on these are. They come out to about 7 1/4 inches. So we're going to open this up, and I found that 14 inches is about the best size for these. It works out pretty decent. The format stays pretty close. Now, I like to look and see which side is going to look better. Let's measure it out and let's get it cut down to 14 inches. So we've got our blank. One of the things I like to do is I like to take and make an end cut. Get rid of most of this on the end. So I'm going to go knock this off on our miter saw real quick and I'll be right back. Alright, so we made that end cut, got it cleaned up. And the format that I've found is that if you run these out to about 14 inches, that is the best format. So let's give ourselves a mark at 14. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'll tell you why as soon as we get to the next stage. I use one of these quick squares, or I use my standard squares that I have laying around. These are all tools that if you are running, you really need to make sure that you have available to you. So let's mark that guy off. And now I'm going to take it back over to the miter saw, and we're going to cut that off at 14 inches. If you don't have a miter saw, that's fine. This is a miter saw that I used to use out of a little box setup. You can use your standard saw. You can use anything you've got. I've used my DeWalt's in order to cut these before. Just as you evolve in your business a little bit, things like miter saws become useful tools, so you'll probably end up upgrading eventually. We'll be right back. Alright, so I actually ended up cutting 2 of these. The reason I cut 2 of these is because I want one that I can do my tests on. We're going to need to dial in the settings on that laser. Since we've never done one of these mini flags over there, I need to know what the settings are going to be in order to get the most effective cleanup. And in this case, I'm just going to make a second blank because it'll give me enough room to do a whole bunch of testing and tuning to get us dialed in. When I first started doing some of these projects, I think on our big flags that I used to make in the big laser, I probably scrapped the first 10 to 12 that I ran. Just trying to dial everything in, find out the best techniques, what works the best. I'd have a few that turned out okay and were salvageable and I could sell, but for the most part, looking back, I wasn't happy with them. And now that I know that, I know a little bit better about how to prep them and get them ready to go. So now we can just whip these things out all day long, and it's because we've adopted more of an industrial processing type of opinion on it. We build these so that they can be duplicated easily. That's how you manage to keep your costs down and to keep your customers from having to pay $40, $50, $60 for something that realistically should be a $20 item. So, next thing we're going to do is we need to sand these. Listen, I had to turn this around for this one. If you are building products for a customer and you are not sanding your boards, your blanks, wow. You are probably one of the people that I hear about. I had somebody say something. They compared my stuff to somebody else's and said it was like the Wish version of ours. So if you're not sanding your stuff, you need to seriously think about what you're doing. Oh, sanding takes extra time. Yeah, and it makes a world of difference on your products too. So we're going to sand this, and I'm going to talk about why we're sanding these down and what we're using to sand them too. So, all right. Sorry, side note over. All right, so we are going to use Diablo. I bought these, I think they were at Home Depot, but this is 320 grit. And what we're going to do is we're going to put this on our DeWalt sander and we're going to run it across here. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to close the grain off on these boards. So as we sand it and it becomes smooth, the paint's going to hit this outside and it's not really going to absorb into this board. Now there's a process that woodworkers use called, I think they call it popping. And what you do is you do a very light spray, a mist of water. And it forces the end grain or the grains in this wood to actually technically stand up. And at that point in time, all of the stains and the paints can soak down in between those layers, and you get a real deep, rich penetration on your stains and your paints. For us, though, that's bad. We need to be able to clean it back off and get to the bare wood. So we want to seal that up as much as we can. So we're going to hit these suckers with some pretty heavy sanding. And we're going to do it on a 320 grit. You want to do this, anything above 180 will actually help close those grains off. I found 320 works best. You might find 220. You might find 400. This is just what works for me right now, so this is what I do. So, once again, if you don't have a sander, shame on you. Nope, not quite there yet. Uh-huh. Bet you thought I didn't have my mask out. Alright. Now that you've got them sanded down, make sure you got a nice smooth finish to them. What we're going to want to do is I like to hit the edges of them just to kind of bevel them off a little bit. Get rid of all the extra little fuzzies. Clean them up nice and pretty. And then when you're done with that, I'll show you how we're going to prep these for paint. Alright, we have pieces sanded down, the edges are beveled, and we even went and blew them off a little bit with some air. Hit them with the air real quick, just to get the dust off of them. If you don't have air available, that's fine. You can also use a microfiber cloth, but you're going to need air when we get to the final step and we're actually finishing these up. So we're going to paint them now. I personally find that this Rust-Oleum 2X Ultra Cover pretty much works the best. Paint and primer in one. We need to get a nice, even, solid coat that goes across it, not too heavy in certain areas and lighter in others, because it will affect your settings as your laser's trying to remove the paint back up. So what we're doing is we're actually painting the board and then taking the paint back off to create the flag image. So let me go grab my mask and we will get ready to get started. All right, we'll come back tomorrow after those are dried and we'll be ready to start cutting out some settings.